Hey guys, it's been a long day, but don't fall asleep on me just yet. This evening, we're going to do an unwind yoga flow. So dim the lights and get cozy. It's time to unwind. In this unwind practice, it's all about relaxing, restoring, rejuvenating, having that little pause between our day and when we go to sleep. How many times do we decide that it's time to go to bed, but we're still looking on our phones, still thinking about things, still talking to this person and that person, and not really even taking the time to just really check in with ourselves? So this practice is all about taking that time. It's about coming to the mat, about checking in with our breath, checking in with our bodies, and giving ourselves that extra special treat before bed. So in this practice, I encourage you to take your time, go slow. If there's a pose that is extra delicious that you want to stay in a little bit longer, I encourage you to do so. And as always, just make sure that you are as comfortable as possible. We are going to be starting this practice lying on our backs, and I would suggest as well for anyone who has any sensitivity in their knees, if you want to have an extra blanket just to the side, a bit of support if you don't have a mat or if you're working on a hard surface, okay? But really this practice, you don't really need any props. You should just be able to do it wherever you find yourself. So we're going to come to lie on our backs. So coming onto your mat, relaxing back, and we're going to start with a grounding pose. So a couple of options with this first grounding pose as we check in with our breath. First option is just to keep your legs long towards the end of the mat and rest your palms on your lower belly, okay? So this is the first option for this pose. The second option is you can bend your knees and just have your feet resting on the mat. You might need to untuck your hips a little bit just to make sure your back feels supported. Have your knees bent, pointed up towards the sky. Also, another really grounding pose. Grounding is amazing before going to sleep because often we can be very much in our heads, and it's good to kind of drop into the body and get really earthed before coming to bed. Another option, just for anyone who would like a bit of more openness in their hips, a bit of flexibility in the hips, you can do something called reclined Baddha Konasana. This is a pose where we place the soles of our feet together. We have our knees bent, pointed out to the sides, and of course, resting palms on the belly. So whichever version you prefer, you can try one of them, see what you think. If you come into reclined Baddha Konasana and after maybe a minute or two, you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to stay here any longer, you don't have to. You can always come out of the pose by placing palms on the outsides of the thighs and doing any extra adjustments that you wish, okay? So I will begin the practice in reclined Baddha Konasana just to get a nice little hip opener, resting palms on the belly, guiding anyone who is in Baddha Konasana as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start to focus our breathing in the center of our body. So we're focusing on this lower abdominal breathing. So as you begin to tune into your breath, first just start to notice the quality of your breath. What is the pace of your breath? What is the natural rhythm? Do you notice if your breath feels open or do you feel it a bit shallow? And without having any sort of judgments or opinions about it, just notice it. Notice where you feel the breath. Do you feel it more in your face? Can you feel it in your shoulders? Can you feel it in your back? And see if you can start dropping in to your body. So with our hands resting on our lower abdomen, see if you can notice that natural lift as you inhale and that natural release as you exhale. as we do this practice, what we're doing is we're inviting our attention away from the activity in our minds and dropping into the space where we're in right now. This is really, really good for soothing or relaxing your mental activity and just becoming very fine-tunedly aware of what is happening with your body and how you can use your breath to nurture your body. So taking a little longer inhale, breathing into the belly, and taking a little longer on the exhale. You can either breathe in through the nose, or if you prefer, you can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, or just keep breathing in and out of the nose. And again, noticing the sound of your breath as you do this. In yoga, the most important part of our practice is what we call the prana. Another word for breath also translates to life force. So it's literally as we breathe, we are cleansing our body, we're rejuvenating our body, inviting new oxygen, new breath, and also allowing for the exhale to release. So 2 more full breaths here on your own, inhaling deeply. Exhaling fully. 1 more breath like this. Inhaling. And exhaling. Keeping with this rhythm, keeping with this steady pace, we're going to start to come out of our resting pose, beginning to invite a little bit of movement into our practice. As we do so, see if you can continue matching your movement with your breathing. If you are in reclined Baddha Konasana, just place your palms on the outsides of your thighs. Remember, nice and slow is the key word here. Slowly start to draw your knees in towards each other. If you have legs long towards the end of the mat, we will all then bend our knees and hug our knees in towards our abdomen. We might just take a moment here if you want to rest. It can feel really nice for the lower back or for the hips just to hug your knees in. And then if anyone would like to do an alternate movement, maybe get a bit of opening in the hip joints, you can rest your palms on your knees and just start to roll your knees out in circles. You can either roll your knees out in opposite directions or the same direction, whatever feels nice for you. This is also like a little lower back massage, which is always very enjoyable. And so just noticing this pace, and as we start to invite this movement, see if you can match your breath with this movement. So imagine that every time you inhale, knees are circling away, and then as you exhale, knees are hugging in. So you're using your inhale to expand in the belly, exhale to hug knees in, almost like you're using knees hugging in to press the breath out. So 1 or 2 more breaths like this if you are working with this variation. And then from here, we're going to place the soles of our feet on the mat and come into a gentle hip twist. So soles of the feet are on the mat, knees are bent, pointed up towards the sky. We're going to take the outer edges of our feet and line them up with the outer edges of the mat. So knees are still bent, pointed up towards the sky, but they're slightly apart. 2 options with hands here, either resting palms on the lower belly, or if you want a more open version, you can open your arms out to the sides. If you don't have loads of space, you can always just bend elbows at 90-degree angles. We call this cactus arms. So whichever version you want, either with arms out or palms at the lower belly. I'll start with palms at the lower belly here. We're going to take an inhale into the abdomen. And then as you exhale, let your knees drop to the left side. So left knee is pointed out to left side of mat. Right knee is drawing down to sole of left foot. Really nice opener for the right side hip and right side thigh. So we're just going to rest here for a moment. And with very little effort, just allow gravity to draw your legs down. So you just breathe into that opening into the right side hip. We'll take about 2 more breaths here. 1 more inhale. And exhale. And then slowly inhaling, bring knees back up to center. Next time, exhaling, knees drop to the right. So this time, right knee points out to right side, left knee drawing down to sole of right foot. Again, breathing into that front left side hip, into the front left side thigh. Again, grounding with palms on the belly or open with arms out to the sides. And just noticing how you're experiencing your breath here. Can you feel your breath as you deepen into this twist? And we'll take one more breath. And then after your next exhale, we will inhale, bring knees back up to center. From here, we're going to come into a quick happy baby pose, really nice for opening into the spine. So in happy baby, we're just going to hug our knees in. You can either have palms on the kneecaps and just open your knees out to the sides, resting here, keeping back of head on the mat, and inviting that breath into the back of the body. If you want to go a bit further, get index and middle finger, hook it around big toes, and then just open legs out to sides of arms. Again, really nice for the back. As you breathe in, you might feel the back of your body pressing into the mat, opening into the spine. And as you exhale, breathing out and releasing into the belly and into the hips. One more breath here. And then we'll exhale, release, drawing legs and knees back in towards each other. From here, we are going to slowly roll over onto our side. If you want, you can rest here for just a moment. We are using this practice to unwind, so any pause that you want to take, you are more than welcome to. And then we're going to continue by inhaling, bringing ourselves up to a seated position. And we're just going to take a pause here in our seated position to check in with our shoulders. So bringing your palms to the tops of your thighs. If it feels comfortable, you can close your eyes. And then we're just going to take a couple of shoulder rolls. So using your breath, inhale to roll your shoulders up towards your ears, and then exhale to roll them back and down. Maybe do 2 or 3 of these on your own. Inhaling, shoulders roll up. Exhaling back and down. Maybe one more. Inhaling up. And exhaling back and down. And then from here, we are going to come out of our seated position, rock forward, come on to all fours, hands and knees, neutral tabletop. Now we're going to go into a sequence called cat-cow, but before we do, we're just going to check in with the sides of the hips and the sides of the legs. So from our tabletop, first making sure fingers are spread, palms are pressed into the mat. You can either keep toes tucked under behind you for support or just place tops of feet on the mat. We're just going to start to kind of drop our hips to one side, inhale back to center, exhale, drop hips to opposite side. So we're just kind of checking in with the sides of the hips, the sides of the body. And again, noticing the breath. Notice how you can use your breath as you transition from one side to the next. And then we're just going to come right back to center, go straight into our cat-cow sequence. So from tabletop, we start with our tailbone. So this is kind of like a ripple up the spine. Using your breath, as you inhale, lift your tailbone, belly opens towards the mat, chest forward, and crown of the head lifts. Feeling a nice length from the chin all the way down through the throat. And then exhaling, tuck your tailbone, round your spine, ears in between upper arms, opening into the upper back. Continuing about 2 more breaths. Inhaling, tailbone lifts. Chest lifts forward, crown of the head lifts. Exhale, round your spine. One more breath. Inhaling, tailbone will lift. Belly opens forward, heart lifting forward. And exhale, round your spine. Inhaling back to center, back to tabletop. From here, we're going to open out into the soles of the feet. So we're going to tuck our toes under behind us, and we're going to sit back on our heels. Now, this is a pose that some people love and some people very much do not love. So if you find that this is a little bit sensitive in the soles of your feet, you can do alternate versions, maybe just by placing palms on the mat, dropping hips back towards your heels so you still get that nice opener. Or if you just want, you can come to lift on your knees. This is where if you do need a blanket for your knees, you can always use a blanket. We won't be here for too long though. So opening into the soles of the feet, toes are tucked under, bring palms to heart center, interlace your fingers, and then open your palms forward. Make sure to keep shoulders drawn away from the ears. Take an inhale into the upper back, and then exhale. Next, inhale, we're gonna lift our arms overhead. So ears are in between upper arms. Even though the arms are lifted, make sure shoulders are drawn away from your ears. So take another inhale here. And on your next exhale, open your arms out and down, rock forward, come back to neutral tabletop. Lift your knees off the mat, lift your feet off the mat. Knees would be a bit more different. And then we're just going to open out through the feet, circle through the ankles, point the toes, flex through the heels. And then from here, we're going to come into a heart melting pose. So in heart melting pose, we want to keep our hips directly over our knees. There's a couple of different layers with this. So if you are new to this pose, you might start just by walking your hands towards the front of the mat, staying lifted on your palms, and just drop your chest towards the mat just a little. You want to make sure that your hips stay directly over your knees. If you go a little bit further, you might drop your forearms to the mat. Notice your breath here, and just if it feels comfortable, you might drop your chest down. We'll stay here for just 1 or 2 breaths, whichever pose you're working with. And then to lift out of this pose, we'll press into our palms and then slowly start to walk your hands back to center, back to tabletop. So from tabletop, we are going to come into our first downward dog. So in downward dog, we are going to start by tucking our toes under. You want to make sure fingers are spread, palms are pressing in, so you feel your chest lift away from the mat. You want to make sure you're not slumping forward. You want to lift away. Tuck your toes under. Start by lifting your knees. We're going to start first by lengthening into the spine, so you might feel the tops of your thighs touch onto your belly. And then I'm just going to adjust here. So I need to walk my hands a little bit more forward, walk my feet back. But as I'm doing so, I am checking in with my legs, kind of bicycling out the legs, bending one knee and bending the other. If you want, you can kind of rock your hips from side to side. Notice your breath here as you play with this pose. Keyword is play. Go nice and slow. And then we'll come to hold in downward dog. So taking a moment to find your foundation. Taking a nice full breath here. We'll all take an inhale together. And then a big exhale. One more inhale. And then as we exhale, we're going to bend our knees. Inhale, lift your head, look forward, and then step your feet forward towards your hands. So coming into a standing forward fold, allowing the crown of your head to drop towards the mat. So take a moment to shake your head no, relaxing into your neck. And then from our standing forward fold, exhale, bend your knees. Slowly begin to roll up to stand. Inhale, lift your arms overhead. Open your heart forward. And then exhale, bring hands together in front of your heart. We'll pause here for just 2 breaths. Find the grounding in your feet, checking in with your shoulders, relaxing your shoulders. Coming back to your center. And then we're going to go into a sun salutation. So from hands at heart center, open your eyes. Inhale, arms will lift overhead. Get that nice openness through the front of the body. Exhale, hinge from your hips and fold forward. In this forward fold, we're going to pause here for a couple of breaths. Let the crown of your head drop towards the mat. You might even take a moment to shake your head no. And then from our forward fold, we're going to lift to a halfway up. So in halfway lift, We want to imagine that our upper body is parallel to the mat. So we're going to pause here for a moment as well, either with your hands just below your knees or palms on the tops of your thighs. Anyone who wants to go just a little bit stronger or just have a little bit of fun, you can lengthen your arms forward, okay? So just 2 breaths like this. And then we're all going to release again on an exhale. Forward fold. This time in forward fold, open your feet out a little more than hip-width distance apart. And we're going to take a moment just to sway from side to side. So you might do this with walking your hands kind of like in a half circle around the fronts of your feet. Bending into the knees. Noticing your breath as you do this as well. Okay, now we're going to come back to center, heel toe your feet back in so they're about hip-width distance apart. This time, just 1 breath to halfway lift. And then we're going to exhale, bend our knees, plant palms on the mat. Then we're going to step our feet back like we're coming into a plank pose, but we're just going to hold for 1 breath. Inhale here. And then exhale, we're going to lower the knees down and then lower our belly onto the mat. So from here, we're going to come into a pose called low cobra. I absolutely love this pose. It's kind of like a belly massage. So in low cobra, you want to first start by pointing your toes back. As you point your toes back, your legs are strong. And then we're going to hover our palms off the mat just a little. So the movement here is with the breath. As you inhale, you're going to lift your chest forward, hug your shoulder blades in, and then you're going to exhale, release a little. Keep your gaze down towards the mat, even if you have your eyes closed. Inhale to lift. Hug shoulder blades in, heart lifting forward. Exhale to release. We'll do that one more time. Inhale. And exhale, fully release. Palms to mat under your shoulders. Tuck your toes. We're going to transition into downward dog now. So a couple of options. If you feel comfortable, you can press away from the mat, but my favorite option is to bend my knees, lengthen through the spine first, and then lift the knees off the mat and lengthen through the legs. So whatever way you want to come to downward dog. Taking a couple breaths here, opening in your downward dog if you wish, or if you prefer, just to hold. Some people say downward dog is a resting pose. I still have my doubts. And then we'll hold here for just 1 more breath. And on our next exhale, we're going to release into a resting hare pose, opening knees out to the edges of the mat, sinking hips back towards your heels. Arms will lengthen forward. Inhale, lengthening into the spine, and forehead rests on the mat. We'll take a couple of breaths here. Breathing into the back of the body, breathing into that space just at the backs of the hips. One more breath. And take a full exhale. Next, inhale, lift your head, look forward. From here, start to walk your hands back towards your knees. If you want, you can bring your knees in for a moment, place palms on the tops of your thighs. We were upside down for a good bit of that, so if you want to just take a moment to sit upright, ground, closing your eyes, checking in with your shoulders. Are your shoulders relaxed? And then opening your eyes to come out of this pose. We're just going to swing our legs out to the side. We are going to come back to the center of the mat, and we're going to lie back. So as we lie back on the mat, we're going to work with a sequence called moving bridge. So we're going to do 3 rounds of moving bridge together, and then I'll give you the option to hold the 3rd bridge just if you like, because it can be a really nice pose to check in with your breath and also get a nice openness through the front of your body. So as we come to lie back, you can come to lie back whichever way you like, either just laying back Or anyone who wants to take their time to lie back can lengthen their arms forward, slowly rolling the back of the body down, just a tiny bit of a core pose. And we're going to inhale first to reach arms overhead, lengthen legs down, get a nice stretch into the body first, check in with the hips. And then exhale, bring arms down by your sides, palms facing down. We'll bend our knees, place the soles of our feet on the mat. So from here, as we go into our moving bridge pose, the key is to go really nice and slow. Sometimes when you become familiar with lifting up into bridge, there's a tendency to want to kind of lift up really quick, but the real kind of pleasure in this pose is to take your time, no matter how many times you've done it before. So we start in our base bridge position with arms down by our sides, walking shoulder blades in towards each other so you have support in the back. Soles of the feet are on the mat. Knees are bent, pointed up towards the sky, but they're about hip-width distance apart. So we start here with hips in a neutral position, breathing into the belly, inhaling here. And then as you exhale, we start to tuck our hips in, pressing into the feet. Tailbone lifts off the mat, and then inhale to roll the lower back and then the mid back off the mat. We lift up now into full bridge pose. So you should feel your foundation in the soles of your feet, your upper back. Breath is open through the front of the body. Take another inhale here, and then starting with your exhale, but slowly start to roll the back of the body down. As you come to the lower back, see if you can keep your hips slightly tucked in so that you gently roll the lower back down onto the mat. Take another inhale here, continuing into our second round. Exhale, hips tuck in, tailbone lifts, feet pressing into mat. Inhale to lift the lower back and then mid back off the mat, lifting up into our full bridge pose. One more inhale. And then exhale again, starting on the exhale, but taking a couple of breaths to slowly roll the back of the body down. See if you can go incrementally, vertebrae by vertebrae, releasing onto the mat. And then we'll go into our third and final round, inhaling into the belly. Exhale, hips tuck in, tailbone lifts, are lifting into the lower back and then the mid back. Lifting up into full bridge. Inhaling here, belly opens up towards the mat. And then starting on the exhale, slowly start to roll back down. As we roll back onto the mat, taking that last little moment to release. And then once you've released here, we'll just take a quick pause, resting palms on the lower belly. Take an inhale into the abdomen and exhale. From here, we are simply going to slide or scooch our feet towards the end of the mat. Bring our arms down by our sides with our palms facing up, coming into our final pose of shavasana. We always do shavasana at the end of a physical yoga practice. It helps our body just to have that extra bit of time to unwind, to settle, to release after the engagement of the physical practice. So as we come to rest here, taking another full inhale, we're going to pause this time at the end of the inhale. So nice big breath in and exhale. If you are coming out of this pose, we will slowly just start to bend our knees, roll over onto one side, rest on your side for just 3 breaths, taking a pause here. And when you are ready, placing one palm on the mat, bringing yourself up to a seated position. At the end of our yoga practice, we'll just take a moment, bringing hands together over your heart, relaxing into your shoulders, checking in with your body, just taking a moment to check in with yourself at the end of your practice. And thank you for taking the time to unwind with me tonight.